Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0 and I have some very specific book recommendation requests for you. I have come up with 12 elements, tropes, plot devices that I absolutely love to see in books, and I need your help finding more books that have these elements within their pages. And while I make these requests, I also am going to challenge you to ask me for some very specific book recommendations in return. So is there a certain trope, a certain type of character, a certain type of ending that you really enjoy and it's really hard to find them because Google isn't that advanced yet? Then please leave them in the comments below and I'll probably do a reaction video, a response video in which I provide my own recommendations based off of your very specific requests. Thank you to all of those who were able to go to my community tab and vote your own choice for what should be my 2,000 subscribers celebration video. The winner ended up being a vlog featuring me reading a bunch of books from my physical TBR that are chosen from you at home. So because that's been locked in, about like 43% of you wanted that one, and it was a close one. I was wondering if it was going to be that or the read until I get a 5-star, but it seems as though you all just want to continue to use your voice and vote on whatever books I'm reading, and I'm totally game for that. Because that's the winner, in the next coming weeks, I'll be sure to send out my first request and show you the books that you get to choose from. And finally, I also want to thank a couple new guests for joining us at the Manor, specifically Lyra and Jen. Both of you are very welcome, and I really hope that you enjoy your stay however long you're here. We've got some really great plans. We've already decided what our book club pick is going to be for September if you're a sleuth, and we will be voting in the next couple weeks about what we're going to be reading in October during spooky season. There's also been some really great plans shared with you all as far as TBR Harvest, so just let me know if you have any questions, or if that sounds great, be sure to join the Manor and be another one of my guests. All right, without further ado, let me grab that list of 12 specific book requests. I'm realizing that not only is this going to be a request video, it's also going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm challenging you now. Can you come up with 12 books representing these 12 requests? Yes, I'm being selfish, because if you can, that means I have 12 new books to look into and possibly read. All right, request number 1 is a storyline in which a main character begins the book with the ending of a long-term romantic relationship. I know that's very morbid and kind of a weird thing that I like to see in books, but I've noticed, especially in romances I've read lately, that when the book begins that way, it's typically going to be a high-rated book for me. For instance, If I Never Met You by Barry McFarlane. I also just read Cackle by Rachel Harrison, which started off the same way. That one isn't a romance, it's a cozy horror, but that also shows that this can be in various types of genres. So yeah, whether it's a romance or another genre, I just find that when this is included in the main character's personal internalized conflicts, we are guaranteed that there's going to be an overarching storyline in which there's personal growth, realizing that you are enough, that you can be happy alone, that you have to put your own happiness, goals, passions, and health first, your own safety first, your needs. And I really love when an author can put that into a storyline. So that's why I'm asking for that specific request, that specific plot device. My second very specific request is book set on transport. And this can be anything: a boat, a train, a spacecraft. So maybe it's a space shuttle, maybe it's a cruise ship in space, maybe it's a dragon bus. I don't know. I don't really care what genre it is. It could be horror, fantasy, mystery, sci-fi, space opera. I've just found that I really, really enjoy the isolated setting that is created by a transportation vehicle. Because when things start to go awry, when people are in close quarters with each other, that's when we really get into the nitty-gritty, and the fact that they can't leave because they are stuck on this in-motion transport, I love it. It's one of my favorite settings in all genres. Another request I have is for a book that you absolutely loved with a great romantic subplot. That is the biggest element that is part of this request. Again, I don't care what genre it is. I don't really care what the synopsis entails, but if one of the biggest things that you adored about this book is a romantic subplot, I want to hear it in the comments. Because while I'm still figuring out romances as the focal point, the one thing that is my tried and true that I typically really love is when there's a romance as a subplot. So it's not the main conflict, it's not the main trajectory for these characters. It's just an additional fun thing on the side. That's what I'm looking for. Specific request number 4 is a book set predominantly in October. No, it's not necessarily because October is just around the corner for me as I record this, but that is also a very great motivation. It's an incentive for sure. I just realized that no matter when I'm reading a book, it could be January, it could be November, it could be July, when I see that it's set in October, my happiness level immediately increases. I love the month of October. I love all of the vibes that come with it, the weather, the things that we wear. I love chunky sweaters. I also love the color palette. It's very earthy with some oranges, reds, greens. October just brings me joy. And so I would love some book recommendations in which a lot of it happens to be set in that month. Another element that I absolutely love to see in books, and what sparked this request is actually thanks to Murphy Napier. I recently got to experience the fact that she did one of my own videos, one of my book tags, which was Calm Down, and I am grateful for the fact that she did that. It was so exciting to see another creator that I respect, love to consume their content, and see her reacting to one that I created myself. In that video, she mentions that she adores books with dangerous flora, and I agree. I love that element, and I'll extend that to dangerous fauna as well. For instance, The Tainted Cup, Annihilation, while it wasn't my cup of tea, I really appreciated how rich the environment was in which these characters were moving about. There's also a book that's on my to be read shelf. I actually plan on reading it with Danny in the next couple months, and it is The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wasteland. It's also set on a train, so two things I absolutely love. And there's supposedly these creepy creatures in the wastelands that everyone's afraid of, but it's also a bit of an attraction, hence why they're taking this trip in the first place. So if anyone can provide me with additional books in which we have dangerous flora and fauna, either in a fantastical sense, a heavy sci-fi sense, or anything else in between, I am 100% game for it. Switching gears to a bit more comfy cozy, this request is going to be in relation to another book that I recall loving a couple years ago. I've been meaning to reread it, and I just haven't had the time, but I've been reading other books that give me that same vibe, and that's why I'm making this request. Can you give me a book recommendation that is similar to I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith? The book that I'm currently reading that is reminding me of that is actually Arabella by Georgette Heyer. I just really enjoy this English countryside feel, and these characters just experiencing life and being a bit humorous through being family ties, friendships, and I've been finding that very comforting lately. So I really want to reread Dodie Smith's I Capture the Castle, but I'm also game to try others that you can recommend that you know are quite similar, at least in tone and atmosphere and kind of overall satisfaction by the end of the book. A very wholesome read. You can really tell the way I'm bouncing up and down between vibes, themes, types of books, that this is just coming from my brain as word vomit, because the next request I have is space opera, bounty hunter, or pirates. I really love the idea of bounty hunters and pirates, and I specifically want it handled in a heavy sci-fi space travel setting. Obviously, this is due to the fact that I have really enjoyed Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mahalik. The Starlight's Shadow trilogy is just one that I've kept on my shelves that I really enjoyed, and I just want to experience more space travel in general in books. I realized that that's one of the tropes, or I guess plot devices, that I really have a great time with, hence why I'm also currently reading Ghost Station, another space-focused book, this time on like a foreign planet and things are beginning to go awry, so not necessarily focused on the traveling part. The travel happened, now they are on this planet, but you know what I mean. And specifically, if there are like space pirates or like space bounty hunters, that would be just my bread and butter. If you can find something like that, I would really appreciate it. And by find, I mean just recommend. Like if you've read it, let me know that you can recommend it to me. I don't want just random titles that you can come up with that you haven't read yourself, because that means neither of us really know what to expect or if it's going to be like a good quality book for me and for you. And in honor of the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, my next request is for Dungeons and Dragons vibes. I am someone who doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons. I've always aspired to be a Dungeons and Dragons player, but I watch a lot of D&D, and I listen to a couple of podcasts in which a group of friends participate in D&D campaigns. So I really love the companionship, the campaigning element to it, the various types of creatures, the hiccups along the way, the conflicts, the danger. It's all super fun. And I'm actually totally cool with the opposite end, which we are seeing in literature, in which we see D&D, but as far as slice of life storylines go, Legends and Lattes is a great example, and there's a few others that I've had in mind that I want to try. Arrival Most Vile, that's one that I know is a bit more slice of life and very clearly inspired by D&D as well, or at least just D&D-esque. So if you can provide that to me in either spectrum, slice of life when they're done with their campaign and they just want a calmer lifestyle, or when they are in the thick of it and actually experiencing it. Because there's also one that I can definitely recommend to you all that's a bit off the beaten path as far as it's not a traditional novel, it's actually a manga, Cat on a Hero's Lap. Let me grab it. Here it is, Cat on the Hero's Lap. I've read the first 2 volumes. I'm definitely going to need to continue with this manga series because I am obsessed. It is 100% similar in vein to a D&D campaign, but it keeps getting interrupted by a cat that keeps wanting to sit on the hero's lap and he can't fight with his other companions, and it is hilarious and wholesome and just lovely. In the same vein of a band of characters working together, a group of friends, maybe a found family or friendship, I am a huge fan of a Scooby Gang cast. This doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a group of children or teens, but I really enjoy that atmosphere in which you can tell that they are juggling the line of investigating something mysterious, either ranging from mystery or all the way to horror, and the group is also very cohesive. It complements each other, each character has a certain role, and they are a band together. There aren't internal conflicts. The conflicts that they're dealing with are external. They're not involving the group. The group is actually very much protected by the fact that they trust each other, that they are loyal to each other, and they work together to battle this outside evil. That's what I mean by Scooby Gang, as far as we're not seeing a group of people kind of breaking down from the inside out. I find that sometimes that works in books and there's a place for it, but other times that's the last thing I want to see. I just want to see a group of people work together and actually face evil or face some type of villain together in the right form. Examples of this include In Every Generation by Kendare Blake. That trilogy has a very true to form Scooby Gang. Another option that is middle grade would be Wonderscape by Jennifer Bell. That has a great Scooby Gang feel too. An adult book I just read that isn't fully the Scooby Gang element that I want, but it has those hints, is actually Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. The reason why it doesn't feel Scooby Gang enough for me is that our main character does go off on his own for quite a bit of the book, but when he is with his friends, they are working together and they seem to trust each other wholly, which is what I really like. The 10th specific request I have is a story arc that is time sensitive. So the characters have a clock ticking and they need to accomplish a certain task, get to a certain place before time runs out. This could be in a matter of 24 hours or less than that, which is reminiscent of Deadline at Dawn by Cornell Woolridge. It could be over an entire weekend, over a week's time. There's just something that is pushing them forward, and they realize that if a certain number of actions doesn't take place, they will be too late. Traveling back in space for a second, I want luxury in space. So cruise ships or maybe a luxury hotel. I have a handful of hotel related space books in my mind already. I've read a couple of them. There are others that I have on my to-do list, but Escape Velocity is a good example. That one is a luxury hotel in space, like a space station. There's also The Spare Man by Mary Cowell Robinette. That one is on a cruise ship. It's very like steampunk mystery in space. The ones I have on my shelves include Floating Hotel, Service Model, Exit Black, those types of elements. So I already have those on my shelves and I'm really hoping that they're winners, but I've just realized that that's a really fun kind of setting in which the whole issue isn't the technology that is offered, but it's set in this high-tech place of luxury, and these characters are just, you know, dealing with their own conflict throughout. Actually, Dead Silence is another good example because that has a ghost ship that was a luxury cruise space liner. And finally, saving the best for last, my biggest request, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, is I want books that have cat characters or cat-like characters in their pages. You all know that I'm obsessed with cats, but I specifically love cats that are animated, that can communicate. And why I'm saying cat-like is because when we're discussing fantasy, sci-fi, something futuristic, dealing with other alien races, there might be an equivalent that isn't necessarily the cat that we know on Earth or in our reality. So I'm opening it up because I've read quite a few that I really like. Obviously you can see some of my cat manga there. Obviously that is very much to the point. It's taking my request literally. But I also read the Tea Dragon Society, the 3 books that I know of in that graphic novel series, and the Tea Dragons remind me of cats. I've also mentioned this in an earlier request, but Hunt the Stars, the Starlight's Shadow series, has a similar kind of animal. It's an alien animal, so it's not a cat, but it's very much like a cat. And while I'm at it, how about cat-like people? People who have cat personalities, because I have read 2 books recently that definitely have that, but weirdly, they've been cat-like personalities and their characters have not liked cats, which has really thrown me for a loop. That includes Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Emily Wilde is such a cat, it's insane, but she also isn't a cat person, which is just doubly insane. Then we also had Library of the Unwritten, the librarian Claire. She was not a cat person, but she is a cat. She gives off cat energy. So I'm also asking for people who potentially remind you of cats. Okay, I think I've taken up enough of your time asking you all to help me out. So I'm gonna wrap this up and remind you to go ahead, comment any books that come to mind based on these requests, but also be sure to put your own specific requests in the comments because I'm going to do my best to provide some good answers for you, some good book recommendations that fit your own needs. Thank you all so much for getting to the end of this video, and thank you to my Manor guests, both new and old. I am so grateful to have you all as a part of an additional part of this community, and I am so excited for what the Manor has to bring this fall. Happy reading, stay hydrated, and I really do hope to see you all in the next one.